Okay, we're welcome to another episode of Real Talk. I am Evan Swanson with Guild Mortgage, and I'm super excited to introduce my friend and colleague Kerri Hartnett with Premier Property Group, who's joining us today. And the real purpose behind this interview is I enjoy interviewing real estate professionals to learn about their backgrounds and what influences them in how they serve their clients. Kerri has been a realtor for many years. She has a family history, and Kerri has an extensive volunteer resume as a real estate professional, both locally at the state level and national level. So, first off, Kerri, thank you for joining us today, and welcome to Real Talk.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
So, before I get into some of your professional and leadership accolades, let's go back to the beginning because you grew up in a family with a realtor influence. Your grandfather was a realtor, your mother was a realtor. So, tell us about how growing up around real estate, what was that like, number one? And number two, I'd imagine that had some influence on your professional path.
Yeah. It's funny because my mom's still in real estate. She got her real estate license when I was still in high school. I was a senior in high school. And then, as most seniors want to get the heck out of Dodge, I wasn't around it a lot. I actually did get out of the house and kind of do my own thing. But my grandfather was a realtor for 18 years, which when he passed, I had no idea that he was actually a realtor for 18 years. Like that's a long time. I thought he just did it on the side. But no, he had a very robust career for 18 years. So I do remember that. In fact, last year, I think it was, I was visiting Fort Lauderdale, which is where I grew up. And my friend had taken me to like just on a tour of the area I grew up. And she's like, "Oh, your grandfather worked there." So it's even the office is still operating.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, once you started working for a living, real estate was not your first career. You actually had a background in hospitality. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I started, um, so retail was like my first job. And then when I was an adult, I got into bartending, serving, bartending, catering, um, for McMenamins actually. And I did that for a couple different companies, but McMenamins was my home hub, and I still consider it my home hub because when I got into real estate, my clients, many of them were my coworkers
Mm,
from McMenamins, and I was so thrilled that I was able to help people in that industry because that industry, you don't make a ton of money and a lot of it's cash. And so, maybe not necessarily part of the income. I mean, I know that even when I bought my house and I was making tips, um, because I'd moved, even though I had the same industry, because I moved, my tips weren't counted.
right.
So
It does
sometimes
complicate a loan application.
it does. And so that was kind of it was really exciting for me and my partner at the time to be able to help our coworkers in the service industry. And yeah, that was exciting back in 2005. Remember those days?
Exactly. Well, you got licensed in 2004, so you
Yeah.
went from service-oriented business into real estate at that time. You've been a realtor now for over 20 years,
Yeah.
or about 20 years. Um, but I think that's a really important aspect because I think people underestimate just the value of having experience in hospitality, in service, bartending in your case.
Hmm.
For me, it was I in high school grew up working at a pretty exclusive country club, and so
Mm-hmm.
the
Hmm.
clientele were folks that had high standards for service. And
Yep.
so I mean, tell us about that. Tell us about how your experience as a bartender and what that demands of a professional who does their job well, and how that has helped you become a better realtor to your clients.
Yeah. Well, I certainly have excuse me, I'm at the coast today and it is nice and breezy, so I'm flowing in the wind back here.
That's awesome.
Um,
That sounds great, by the way. It's hot here in
It's
Portland.
amazing. Yeah, it's 74 degrees and beautiful. So I'm not complaining. Um, so yeah, my service industry, my bartending, I'm someone who can definitely multitask, which, there's schools of thought on that. Maybe you shouldn't multitask, maybe you should focus more, but I can do more in, that like you only get this, we all get the same 24 hours. I can really compartmentalize things and get more done in that
Hmm.
regard. Um, Really good at working under pressure. I did work at a pretty high volume bar, McMiniman's Kennedy School, and
Mm.
lots of volume. So I was able to, again, manage a room, read a room. Um, you know, I considered myself a consultant even back then, because especially at the bar, you're like, you are the one that's running the room and you are the one that's having to have different conversations. And, being the sober one, you're able to actually give them some sound advice. So, yeah, that was a huge piece of just taking care of people, really.
Yeah.
Like that's the job, is just taking care of people and managing stressful situations without appearing like my hair is on fire, essentially.
Well, I think what you said there, in terms of like reading the room and paying attention, and being able to multitask,
Mhm.
being able to take on a large volume real estate transaction, there is so many different touch points and parties
Yeah.
involved. And if a professional is reactive in during that whole entire time, they are not very efficient. And by the way, the client's stressing out.
Yeah.
And so what I think, the way I would say that is, I think you're probably very good at reading the room and anticipating your client's questions and needs before they actually arise, right? I
Yeah.
mean, if you're at the bar and you're monitoring, okay, that person's drink is here and there, and like this person's probably like, you're the one that's coming to them before they have to raise their hand and say, hey, you need another
Yeah.
round. And I think that that is so valuable in a real estate transaction, because for a lot of people, it's a highly emotional and
Hmm.
maybe even anxiety ridden, stressful
Hmm.
experience.
Hmm.
But when they're working with a professional that has the ability to anticipate their needs and provide the information before they have to ask, that just de-escalates that
Oh
stress
yeah.
level. And I would
Yeah.
imagine that that's the that well, I mean, I've seen it. We've
Yeah.
worked on transactions before, and you're
Yes.
very, very good at that.
I mean, you and I might have some banter, but but no, the client should never feel, I mean, they're already stressed. I've had clients that have said to me years later after they purchased, like they went through after the purchase was over, it was so stressful for them that they developed shingles, which
Oh
yeah,
my
I'm
gosh.
like, wow, like that is, and I know it's stressful for people. I mean, some people can like go with the flow a little bit better, but I know how stressful it is. And having the ability to just like sometimes they just want to rant and rave, and you just have to sit there and like kind of take it and
Hmm.
listen and just be okay with allowing them to kind of verbally assault you
Right.
or you know so and same in the bar industry too.
Sure.
That was a little easier. I had a bouncer, I could get him removed, but
Totally. Totally. I want to shift gears and talk about leadership, because a lot of people don't realize that the local association of realtors, the state association of realtors, the national association of realtors, this is an association that does so much, not only for the real estate profession,
hmm
but for property owners generally.
yeah.
And you guys are the primary advocacy source for so many different people, and yet you guys are kind of like the unsung heroes, because I feel like a
Mhm.
lot of people don't necessarily understand what you do, and how you do it. Um, your resume is so extensive. I would, or there can't, you have to have served in the most volunteer roles of any other realtor in Portland. So
Well, maybe in Portland. I was
let,
gonna say my mom's resume is larger than mine.
let me give you a few highlights. You were, first off, the 2018 PMAR Realtor of the Year. You also served as the local board president from 2017. You were a director from 2014 to 2019. On the state level, you've been a director multiple times. You've chaired multiple committees: strategic planning, political affairs, budget. At the national level, I'm looking at this list, it's like an entire page. You are in the National Association of Realtors RPAC Hall of Fame. You've served on the National Association of Realtor Board of Directors. You have been so influential. And I think again, like, thank you as a person that participates in the real estate industry, because you are doing the lifting for the rest of us to conduct our business. And So first off, thank you. Second of all, why is leadership so important to you? And I'm also curious, it sounds like your mom may have been an influence, but how did you first get involved in
Yeah.
volunteering and leadership in the real estate profession?
Yeah, those are all great questions. So, funny fact about me, I actually started taking real estate courses through the Women's Council of Realtors before I was even licensed.
Wow, cool.
We have our own designation, the Performance Management Network designation, and this is back in the day when you had to actually go into I went to Portland State, took my test, and then I had to wait a week to get the results. Fortunately, I passed. But during that time, during that wait period, Women's Council had a regional event in Portland, and I was like, well, I might as well start going to classes. And it was on referrals and networking, which is exactly the way I like to do business. And so I was exposed to that type of organization. And Women's Council, if you don't know, and I know you do, but Women's Council is a leadership development organization.
Hmm.
That's what we do. We develop leaders for the industry, the business, and the communities that we serve. And so that was because at that time my mom was on the national line to be the national president. And so she was like, oh, do this, join Women's Council, join the company that I joined, and you'll be great. You'll be fine. You'll have a really good solid foundation. So I did. Now, my mother is a realtor in Boise, so this was in Portland, and I've only sold in Oregon. Um, but because she was so well known, because she was going to be the national president 2 years after I got licensed, or a year and a half after I got licensed, when I went to my first meeting in Portland, not the class that I took, but when I went to my first local meeting, the at the time the leadership team, obviously they knew my last name being Hartnett, and they're like, oh, we're gonna pull her in because she obviously has something, her mom's almost national president, yada yada yada. So it was my mom, but not really, because my mom always knew better than to try to tell me what to do.
Hmm.
um other than like I did listen to her when she said join Women's Council, join the company, you'll be fine. But it really was that first, it was back in 2000 and must have been 2004, uh at my first meeting, whenever that was. And they were like, do you want it, would you be, at the time we called it secretary? Sure, what does that mean? Oh, you're gonna get a $500 stipend to go to this meeting that I was already going to, and you're gonna get some training, and you're gonna sit here and you're gonna do this stuff. I'm like, sure. So it was, gosh, these names are going back, but Jill and Diane, the Sister Act from Remax, if you remember them. Donna, gosh, I can't even remember these names now. And I did, and then they flew out my head. But Judy Eberly, Mary, oh my gosh, so many women at that time that saw that in me and pulled me into it. And I didn't, I had a 4-year-old at the time, actually, almost five. So I stepped into like small roles, and I was
Uh-huh.
like, I need to be here I mean, I got into real estate so that I could be flexible and be present for my son. And I didn't, and then it just seemed like I just put more and more into my repertoire. Um, so that's kind of what drew me to leadership. I will tell you, during the 2008, 9, 10, whatever we call that recession, that the
Right.
crazy
The
time,
housing crash, sure.
the housing crash, the crisis that we got out of. That was a time when I really leaned in. I was local
Mm,
president in 2010. And I can tell you, I know for a fact that if I didn't have all my volunteer stuff that I was doing, I probably would have gotten out of the industry,
mm,
because I wasn't making any money, like at all. In the midst of all of that, I was also going through a divorce,
mm,
partner and I split, business partner and I split, decided to go separate ways. We're still friends,
hmm,
but we decided that, maybe she didn't want to be in real estate, and I had to do,
mm.
we had to like kind of look at that and what are we doing? She is still in real estate, by the way. Um, and also I had broken my knee. So I was going through some serious changes,
Jeez,
right? So if
rough.
I didn't have that, and the leaders that I could call from across the country to be like, hey, what's a short sale and how do you do it? You could call people from Florida, California, Nevada, people that that experienced these types of really short sales and bank owns and things like that, to have that connection, also to have that tethering of myself to the industry. I
Hmm.
really would, I feel like I would have gotten out of it. And at that time, that's when I really started getting involved with 2010, I was president for the local network for Women's Council. The same time I reached across the aisle to PMAR and said, "What can I do for you?" Then I became a director that year for Oregon State. And then Jenny Pakula over at Oregon found me and said, "You would be great to start a YPN, Young Professionals Network." And so that sort of snowballed and it just kind of kept me busy. And even though I really wasn't making a ton of money, I was still doing activities within the
Hmm.
industry. Um, and yeah, that's
So
what
I didn't realize that you were credited with starting YPN, the Young Professionals Network for PMAR, which is
the
still active
state.
today and very oh, the state one. Got
It
it,
was
got
for
it,
the
got it,
state, but that was
got it.
before there was any locals, and so while I never served or outside of the state, I did serve at the national on the national
Sure.
YPN.
Yeah.
Um, I was instrumental because I with the help of Jenny and Oregon Realtors was able to get the state off the ground, which then kind
Mm.
of helped get the locals off the
It's
ground.
a
So yeah,
very vibrant group, so
yeah,
that's awesome.
they sure are. I wasn't even
Um,
that young when I started it.
Well, I mean, kudos to Women's Council because I've also had Lindsay Culver and Cindy Thackeray on this, who are both also highly, I mean, obviously Lindsay's the PMAR president in
Yeah.
2025. And Cindy served in multiple roles and
Yep.
as well. And they both credit the Women's Council for sort of dipping their toe into local leadership and volunteering. And then that obviously their, careers blossom from there. So that it sounds like there's some similarities there. Um, uh, and I've experienced this as well because I've served on committees with you before, and
Yep.
you're always a star no matter where you're at. But describe your leadership style because you told me this in kind of the preliminary conversation that we had, and I thought it was awesome.
Yeah. I am a pretty direct person, so I'm
Hmm.
not really going to sugarcoat anything for you. I feel like my leadership style is transparency.
Hmm.
Um, I actually was having this conversation with someone last night. It's like, I understand that maybe not everyone loves what's going on. And I'm always like, well, if you don't love what's going on, the only way to change it is to be at the table, right? So I'm inclusive. I like to invite people to share their ideas and kind of share, like, okay, here's policy. This is what it looks like. Here's my D, right? Here's my directness. Here's what
Hmm.
it looks like. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. This is what we have to go off of right now. But in the future, maybe you need to be on this group. So to try to
Hmm.
include people in that. I like to make sure that people feel like they have their concerns have been addressed, so they've been
Hmm.
heard.
Hmm.
But then to also be like, okay, I appreciate that, but unfortunately, policy says this is what it is. So
Hmm.
I'm a very much if you know the disc personality, I have
Yep.
no C in me at all, so I'm not usually that organized, but I'm a Virgo, and that Virgo in me is all about following rules, or if you don't like the rules, you can figure out a way to get involved and make them better.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I love that because there's a theme that is for whatever reason, how life throws you themes, right? And it's been in a
Mhm.
book I've read. I had a conversation with another real estate professional the other day, and this concept of leadership, right? What it means to be a leader. I think intuitively people think that it means that you are some sort of expert and you are at the table and you direct sort of everything. But what I heard you say is that A, you're transparent, you're open and honest with others, but you really try and listen and be inclusive of others' opinions. And
Mhm.
I think that is really the defining aspect of a great leader is someone who brings together a group. Yes, it doesn't mean you're totally passive and that you don't have an opinion or
Right.
you're not trying to think of what the mission is, but you really truly are trying to include others at that
Yeah.
table to provide input. And oftentimes it's the person that's the quietest that I find it like
It
often
has a
has the
lot of
best ideas.
information.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, there's another thing on that. I don't know if you shared this. Maybe you did. So I served as the national president for Women's Council last year. And I was actually having this conversation yesterday with a group of past presidents because we're working on a task force together. And no understand recognizing and understanding and knowing this that at every step of my leadership journey I have been a different leader. Like everything makes me, I'd say, better. Like my motto is always being proven, always be improving, right? Leave
Hmm.
something better than you found it.
Hmm.
And I know I know that like even this year to last year, my leadership is stronger and different than and myself, my grace, my patience, being more present. It's so much different than it was 2 years ago. It's different than it was last year. You know, I don't have as many things thrown at me as past president as I did when I was president. And I
Hmm.
certainly didn't have as many things thrown at me when I was just on the line. But yeah, it's a wonderful growth opportunity. I just really enjoy the growth.
That's awesome. Okay, I want to shift gears. Something else that's really important to you and you're highly involved in it is yoga and your yoga practice. And again, being that you and I have shared, transactions where we've served clients mutually at the same time, I would say one of the defining aspects of you is that you are calm under pressure. And there inevitably in if you've worked in enough real estate transactions, you know that there's the possibility that things can go wrong, right? Whether it's someone's fault or not, it doesn't matter. The point is there's so many variables involved to bring a real estate transaction together that there's certainly ways we can have problems and issues. And when there's an issue, it really requires, in my judgment, that the parties stay solution oriented. So we
Yeah.
acknowledge there's an issue, maybe there's frustration, but how are we going to solve it? And if
Yeah.
there's anyone that comes to mind that's solution oriented, it's Kerri Hartnett. And I can't help but draw that line between your practice of yoga and that. So I feel like I've just kind of already, the cat's out of the bag. But help me share with us how important yoga is to you. How often do you practice? And yeah, what is that? What role does that play in your life?
Oh man. I mean, I do my best to practice on a daily basis, and sometimes that's on the mat physically and but majority of when I do that is because I need the calm and
Mm,
the strength and stability off the mat.
hmm.
And so I think a lot of people think of yoga as being this physical practice, which it is, but there's a lot more to it. It's all about mindset, it's all about like meditation, it's breath work. And so I've been practicing, I've had a relationship with yoga since 98, I want to say.
Mm,
And
mm,
then really, really, like when I say that, I took a class here and there. I think I took some prenatal when I was pregnant and, had some videos, some VHS tapes that I would utilize. And about 10 years ago, I started down this journey of like I really wanted to lose the 20 pounds that I said I'd been wanting to lose that since I got into real estate, right?
hmm, hmm,
I wanted, and that's actually kind of what did it. And my health coach at the time was like, well, come to any, she had a studio, come to any of the classes, like whatever. I was getting ready to go to Hawaii. I was like, cool, let's do it. And I saw such dramatic physical changes that I just kept going and kept going and kept going. And then it turned, everyone says exercise 3 to 5 times a week. So it turned into 3 to 5 times a week. And then I just got like so incredibly into it that it was more like 7 times a week. And then sometimes it was more like 9 times a week because I do more than one class a day. On average now I'm about 6 days a week. Sometimes it's 7 days, but not, like I'll give myself some grace if I don't hit it, one day. I'm fine with that.
hmm.
But yeah, at this point, it's more like 6 days a week. I teach 3 days a week now. I'm actually an instructor, which I took the training not to be an instructor, but I love it so much that I wanted to share it with my community. Um, I love when my students tell me that my voice is so calm and warm and welcoming because I'm like, oh, sometimes I feel like I'm just reading a script in my head, right? And so it's more like, and I hate scripts, but they're not scripts when they're, when you're in, when it's internal.
Hmm.
Um, I'll share with you one of the things, and you can kind of relate to how this might translate into a real estate transaction. But I think I shared this with you last week. A couple of years ago, I was on I-5 in my beautiful Volvo, who I brought over from Sweden, and I got rear-ended in I-5 traffic, probably someone going like 20, 25 miles an hour. I was at a standstill. So, my baby was a little smushy. Um, I was not worried about myself. I was mostly worried about my car. I was like, oh, and then I just took a deep breath, reminded myself that everything's always working out. And I got out of the car, and this was on I-5, and it was like 3 o'clock, so that traffic was starting to build. I got out, and I was on my way to my chiropractor. So I was like, I gotta get to my chiropractor for sure now. I didn't want to like really waste any time, and I knew that like if I didn't have my practice, I probably would have went out there with daggers getting ready to throw at this person. I
Hmm.
mean, I wanted to anyway because my baby, but I was super calm. I had taken that breath. I did cry a little bit, mainly because of my car. And everything worked out. And she's all fixed, and I got all, I had some treatment and took some time out of my life for that, but it's all good. But I think that the sort of the takeaway is that if I didn't have my yoga practice, and that's what I mean by sometimes practicing on and off the mat, right? If I didn't have my yoga practice, that interaction would have been so much worse. Like
Hmm.
so much worse. And you can imagine as a realtor, we're dealing with different personalities all the time. Honestly, sometimes it's the cooperating broker that is so pants on fire, hair on fire, kind of
Hmm.
that's the way they approach things. I have been there. I'm not going to say I haven't, but I have the emotional intelligence to like stop myself,
Mm.
take a breath, and just really be solution based, really,
Y-
instead of
Yeah.
reactive.
Yeah. That's awesome. I
Yeah.
think your combination of as I'm thinking about sort of just kind of the well-rounded professional that you are, right? That yoga provides you with the emotional resilience, calmness to help client be that sort of stable body in a real estate transaction for your clients, which again is a highly emotional
Yeah.
situation for them. And then your leadership brings you in front of all the issues. I mean, you are the first to know about the things that the national, the state, the local association is working on. And you gave the example of short sales, right? You were probably one of the first on the ground here in Portland to really understand that process. So the technical aspect of being a
Yeah.
realtor, right? And it's such a beautiful combination of mindset, resilience, but also technical competency that, blends together to make you such a extraordinary resource to your client. So that's awesome. I don't want to skip over this because you mentioned our first call how important this is to you. You like to have fun too,
Yeah. I
right?
do a
What
lot.
do so tell us what you like to do in your fun time or free time.
In my spare time. Well, I like to practice yoga a lot. I mean, that
Mm-hmm.
is, but that, and I do consider that fun, right? It is fun, especially when you get to play around in poses you haven't ever tried before and try
Mm-hmm.
not to fall on your face. That's fun. Um, I love to go out dancing. I do live at the coast now. Most of my time I split. I mean, I, do, I say I split between Portland and here, but most of the time I'm at the coast and I have Lindsay, you mentioned Lindsay, is
Yep.
my partner in crime that helps me out with feet on the street in Portland or wherever I need it. Um, but what I love, the coast, people are like, "Oh, it must be boring out there." No, it is not boring out here. I was talking to someone who puts together like a list of all the things that was happening just this past weekend. There was 20 events happening out here at the coast.
Wow.
20, right? Um, what I love to do out here is I love to go karaoke. I become kind of good at it.
But do you have a song? What's your song? Yeah, I
Oh
mean, maybe you
gosh,
have many, but like some
there's
people
so
have
many.
a karaoke song they can really execute.
There's really one that I tend to resonate with. Anything really cranberries, but Zombie has been one that I've
Okay,
been
awesome.
really
I want to
focused
see that
on lately.
someday.
You should. Yeah, I'm having a party. You're totally welcome to come out. But when I do that, like, so my birthday is coming up, I'm throwing myself an unbirthday party because I decided when I turned 50 last year that it's time to start aging backwards. So that's the kind of fun, right? So now it's my unbirthday party instead of the 80s theme that I had last year and it was more like a prom and everyone dressed up in their prom 80s
Fun. Yeah.
dark wave. So they had to be in black or red or purple or something dark. This year I'm stepping back into the 90s, so we're all gonna and so I'm inviting and encouraging people to put on, basically what they wear today, which is their flannels and their docks. I mean, they're not gonna look too different. So that's kind of some of the fun stuff that I love to do. I will do it anywhere. I'll do it in a car. I will and I what I kind of joke about this. I sing a lot of karaoke in my car between Portland and Astoria because I have like usually a couple hours in the car to practice. While everyone's listening to podcasts and getting smart, I'm getting really good at karaoke.
But you're having fun.
I'm having so much fun. And people around me are like, what is this girl doing? Um, but yeah, I love that. I love to go dancing. One of my besties, Rachel and I, we constantly are going to the 80s video dance attack that's always going on in Portland where we dress up. and we go dancing. I'm going to Cyndi Lauper. I love to go to concerts.
Awesome.
I'm going to Cyndi Lauper this weekend. I'm like, what am I going to wear? And you know I'm going to wear something that she would have. So that's the kind of fun. Like it's like this is what I live for. I love to
Hmm.
have fun. I hang out with friends. I mean, anything that has to do with fun, and I've always been that way. I feel like in high school, while everyone was like, "What sport are you in? Are you cheerleading?" I'm like, "No, I'm a spectator. That's my fun."
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah.
That's awesome. Good.
And
Okay.
it helps me, it also helps me. Oh, I was going to say this. All of my leadership, public speaking skills that I learned through Women's Council and all these leadership roles has prepared me to be one of the best stage performers that any karaoke bar will ever see.
That's awesome.
Because I have
Okay.
no
So we know what your next concert is. You're seeing Cyndi Lauper. What was your first concert?
very first.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I think it was MC Hammer.
Yes. That's awesome. I love
I'm pretty
that.
sure it was MC, like my first big concert. There might have been like a state fair concert that was like Steppenwolf or something, but I'm pretty sure my first big concert was MC Hammer. And it was supposed to be MC Hammer, En Vogue, and Vanilla Ice. But Vanilla Ice and En Vogue didn't show up. And so, and I wasn't even really going for MC Hammer, but we stayed because he showed up.
That's so awesome. I love
In
hearing that.
Boise, Idaho.
That's great. Okay. Well, Kerri, thank you so much for spending time and sharing this with who you are. And again, I've known you for years. You're such an
Yeah.
awesome realtor, professional, friend, leader, all that stuff. But you know the question I'm going to close with, I ask all my guests on the show is if you could travel back in time and give yourself one piece of advice when you were starting out as a rookie realtor, what would you tell yourself?
Same thing I tell myself today or anyone, like just focus on the activities that bring the results. Like don't worry about anything else. Just focus on, and that for lack of a better term is lead generation. I like to call it making purposeful connections, but just literally focusing on what you need to do, getting in front of people, telling them what you do, not in a salesy way, but just focus on the results that or the activities that will bring you the results that you want. That's
Yeah.
what I tell myself every day.
Well, I've known you long enough to know that every time you connect with someone, it's from the heart. It's genuine. You're not doing it
Yeah.
to seek. You're looking
Not
to serve.
salesy.
So yeah,
No,
yeah, right on.
not at all.
Kerri Hartnett, thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to hanging out again soon.
Yeah, thanks, Evan. Great to be here.
All right.